with you guys this year. And the best topic that we can start with is employment immigration outlook for 2023. I'm Sam Shihab.
I'm Brian Burke.
And when we come back, we're going to tell you what we've read, what we think, and we would like to hear about what you think. All right, so I hope you had a wonderful end of the year, a New Year party, New Year get together with your families. And if you've traveled abroad, hopefully your travel was safe and secure. And now we arrive at 2023. Time is flying. And we want to take a look at what 2023 has for us and have a quick chat, discussion with my partner, Brian Burke.
Yeah.
And see what we have in store for 2023. I think the very first thing we want to talk about, honestly, is the economy.
Yeah,
right?
You know, we have lots of things to talk about, but basically all of them sort of lead back to one source being, the economy drives everything.
Who said it's the economy, stupid? Bill Clinton.
Is that Bill Clinton? Yeah.
Yeah. He said it's the economy, stupid. So that means if you're running for politics in this country, it's all about the economy. It's all about the money. And immigration is no different. If you want to understand immigration in this country, you want to understand the economy.
Yeah.
When the economy is hot, immigration is hot. When the economy is cooling off, immigration cools off without changing any laws. Yeah. Therefore, taking a quick look at what the economy is going to do next year, I think significantly colors the outlook.
Sure.
For 2023.
I mean, I spent a lot of time thinking about the economy for this thing, and I know, economics whiz, but everything I'm reading basically says not stellar, but not the end of the world right now.
So there's a great tension between, we have, the government wants to control inflation. The labor market, which is really directly related to what we do and demand for people from in the U.S. and from outside the U.S. Is hot. The labor market is very hot. But because the labor market is very hot and continues, by the way, very hot, is driving the salary point to a higher level than what employers are able to afford. And therefore, they pass on the increase in prices to the consumer. And the consumer is paying more money. Therefore, we have inflation. So the government wants to slow down the economy by raising interest rates, by making it expensive for companies to conduct business, they want to force the companies to lay off workers, to get rid of workers, to raise the unemployment rate. That's the number one task of the government right now, is to increase the unemployment rate, to cool off the demand for workers. By doing that, they are going to affect immigration, because if there is a high or higher unemployment rate, there is a less interest in being sympathetic to foreign workers in this country.
Yeah, the bottom line is, if folks in Congress are hearing their constituents say, I don't have a job, I can't find a job, it doesn't look good for them to be, advocating for more immigration. Yeah.
If interest rate goes up to, right now it's up running 3 to 4%, whoever you're talking to, but if it goes up to 6 or 7%, all of a sudden Congress, nobody has the stomach to pass any legislation that helps immigration.
That can be perceived to be hurting the U.S. worker.
And here's the reality about that. Perception in this business is unfortunately reality.
Yeah.
It is not reality, it's perception reality.
I don't need to put the stats up there again, especially because I don't have them with me right now, but we've repeatedly put them out there. It's, who are the entrepreneurs in the United States? It is, immigrants.
100%. And the reality of the matter, Brian, is when we had 7, 8, 9% unemployment in this country under either a pandemic or any historical downturn in the economy, the STEM unemployment was incredibly low.
Yeah.
It has always hovered between 2 to 3% all the time.
Yeah.
So it is not reality. It is not what demand is. It's what the perception is. And if the perception is negative, what you're going to have is Congress not passing new laws. What you're going to have is USCIS getting tougher on approvals.
Yeah.
And issuing tougher RFEs and trying to discourage employers from hiring foreign workers.
All these things are sort of on the list of things I wanted to talk about today, yeah.
And it's about, and it doesn't matter what we need here in this country. It doesn't matter about the long-term demand
Yeah.
that we have. We have a significant shortage in engineers, significant shortage in IT professionals to remain competitive in the world, to continue other initiatives this administration has, like clean energy, AI initiatives, EV initiatives.
Yeah.
All these initiatives requires engineers and professionals, but if the unemployment rate goes up,
Who cares?
they drop.
If
everything.
if people are, if the general population is unhappy about the state of the economy, that threatens the jobs of politicians too, and it's just.
And that's the connection in simple terms between the economy and immigration. And I've been doing this for some time, and I can see it.
Yeah.
I can see it. I mean, I remember going back to when there was a freaking out about shortage in the IT because the lights will not turn on January 1st, 2000, when the Y2K, fear. Oh my goodness, we increased the H-1B cap to, I think, to 198,000, if I remember correctly.
Sounds about right.
And that's a ridiculous increase. And the green cards were flying. And then a couple of years later, January 1st, 2000 came around, everything worked. And here comes the dumping of the H-1Bs, the dumping of the green card, they're getting tough on everybody, and so forth and so on. So it happens. So my projection, Brian, my outlook is nervous about 2023, personally. What do you think?
Well, I'm an attorney, ever the contrarian. I am choosing to find some optimism between some obvious concerns. In terms of, I'm going to ignore, not ignore, but we're going to talk about, what we're expecting and what are the silver linings here that we're seeing and some sort of key things that are important to people. Fair enough?
Yeah.
So I think number one on the list is visa availability.
Yes.
And Sam, when preparing for today's presentation, I looked at last year's presentation, the presentation that we made on January 3rd, 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were talking about increased visa availability, and it was huge. The fiscal year 2022 had a massive visa availability, and as everybody knows, they issued most of those visas, and we have already talked that visa availability is less this year than it is last fiscal year, but the bottom line is it's still up. Visa availability is still up. There's a rollover of 50,000 visas from the family preference categories from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2023, and those are going to go to people in employment-based green card categories, and more of them are getting green cards this year than they might have gotten in a world where there was no COVID pandemic at all.
So that's fiscal year 2023.
The one, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right, sounds good. So you're saying that there's 60,000 or 57,000?
I think it's like 50 something. The bottom line, more is good, more than the base 140,000 that's sort of guaranteed to the employment-based categories. They're not all going to people from backlogged areas. We know that, everything they're saying is that demand from the rest of the world is up, and thus causing the visa retrogressions. But the bottom line is...
There's more green cards available in the employment area for this year.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an outlook, that's a fact.
That's something.
That's a fact.
Well, it's the silver lining of the fact, Sam. There's retrogression, and people are upset about it. I'm upset about it, but more visas are still available, and we're still ahead of where we would be in an otherwise normal fiscal year 2023.
So let's take this visa availability outlook to the next level.
Yeah.
And ask the question: what do we believe about the speed by which the consulates are processing green cards this year which will answer the question of whether or not there will be visas available next year,
Well,
in my opinion.
they have, of course, how they're, so looking beyond fiscal year 2023.
Well, no, we're having an outlook about what's happening in 2023. Is the Consulate going to approve enough green cards?
Well, so they say that they're up to full capacity, right? But gee, it sure is taking them a long time to get to any sort of green card cases that we have sent to the consulate. Our quotes to people.
The backlog is so severe.
The backlog is so severe. So, maybe they are doing better at the consulates, and maybe that, puts a damper on our prediction for visa rollover in fiscal year 2024. But I'm going to, be silver lining guy again and say, I'm not impressed. I'm still not. That backlog is there, and that means there's cases not gotten to, and that means in theory visas.
We haven't seen numbers recently from the State Department, and we will see numbers, and we will be able to predict, because we had a reasonable prediction, and that was on point. People don't, prediction is what it is, which means you're just guessing, because if it is not a guess, you won't call it a prediction, right? By definition. But when we looked at the numbers coming from the State Department last year, we had a pretty good idea, almost very accurate.
We knew pretty
we
early.
We said 50,000.
We were, and that's what it manifested. And honestly, we should probably start to soon look at the numbers that we've seen in this fiscal year already since October 1st, and we'll get an idea as to what kind of. They say they're at full capacity, but I think sooner or later we're going to have to do one of those by the numbers presentations where we run an analysis of what the Department of State has been actually up to, and maybe we're going to get some more visa rollover. It's not outside the question,
But the outlook for visa bulletin movement doesn't seem very strong.
Well, I have to agree with that. We saw a massive retrogression, all across this since this fiscal year began. But I'm going to be Mr. Silver Lining, Sam. It's a great way to allow your space, allow the visa bulletin to go forward, is to move it back massively first. In theory, there are still visas to be issued this year. We believe, to the best of our knowledge, they are released quarterly. And as the year goes onward,
but we haven't seen it yet.
We haven't seen it yet. I'm just at the very least thankful that EB2 that everything stopped rolling backwards, at least, especially EB2 India, which was really silver lining, Sam. If it stopped moving backwards, okay, it might move backwards again. Hey, it might move forward. I'm choosing to maintain my optimism.
Got it. So, all right, sounds good. So that's the visa availability outlook. We got 50,000. We need to keep an eye on the consulate. We just don't see efficiency yet from the consulate. I personally think that the council will be able to issue all those visas. I personally think that we're just not seeing it because they're so backlogged. It's almost like they're just incredibly backlogged. So I just don't see. I mean, the good news is I think they're going to approve all those family immigration cases,
good for those folks,
which is good for the family immigration folks. But for the employment, I think we're going to go back to the $140,000 visas, in my guesstimate. But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Again, I think sooner or later I'm going to have to start running these numbers.
As long as visas don't get wasted. I mean, we do employment immigration. We also do family immigration, and we love our family clients because these are real good people. It's really the employment folks, mom and dad, the employment folks.
That's how we end up doing a lot of family-based cases.
So
I got my green card. You could get my green card 5 years ago. I'm a citizen. What about my family?
I got married. I want to bring my wife.
Yeah,
absolutely. So as long as there's no wastage, and my projection that there will not be any wastage next year, consistent with what
I'll have to remember this presentation, and we'll have to check in on the beginning of
yes, there will not be wastage. Okay, good. Let's talk about USCIS. You want to talk about H-1B or you want to talk about USCIS? What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about H-1B just a little bit.
Do it.
So, this time last year, I was sitting here saying, Sam, they have H-1B reform on their agenda. And they still have H-1B reform on their agenda. It's on their regulatory agenda with the exact same language that has been there since Donald Trump was president, pretty much. Strengthening the H-1B program, increased scrutiny on all sorts of things. They haven't done anything about it. And it's really,
is this the one in which they are going to increase the prevailing wage, tightening up on consultants?
I don't recall the
some of these provisions are downright harsh.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is the big one was defining what a specialty defining what a specialty occupation is was the big component.
It is not a. This is not a, in my opinion, immigration friendly change.
Oh, it is not. It is not at all.
Yeah.
The bottom line is right now, and since about June 2020, I believe it was, when they changed the IT Server Alliance won their court case, and there's a big old change in policy. It's been a very friendly time for H-1B visas, and darn it, it seems to continue. There's no proposed regulation. There's no proposed change, and the bottom line is that employment-based immigration is really kind of flies under the radar of everything right now. If you search for immigration news, it's not employment-based immigration that they're talking about. It's talking about crisis at the border, more security, and path to citizenship for dreamers. Those are the big immigration news items. Nobody's
asylum.
Yeah, there's nobody on the floors of Congress saying, "Oh, you have to change the H-1B rules. That's the real immigration problem in the country." There's no pressure. Right. It had been on the agenda long enough. I thought maybe that last year that they would have wanted to do something to basically fix their absolute dearth of regulations. Nothing's happened. I'm happy with it on that front. It's a great time to still be filing H-1B cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So, backlog?
The backlog is...
Outlook for 2023 on backlog.
So, I don't know, Sam, you seem to have a silver lining. You seem to be more the silver lining guy on this one.
Obviously, USCIS have made promises.
Yes.
USCIS said by the end of this fiscal year, which is October, cases in the pipeline will not be longer than 6 months across the board.
Yeah, they have a website that basically say, we are trying to get our processing time down. It's our goal for the end of fiscal year 2023 to, I have a quote from here. Internal cycle time goals in March 22. These internal metrics guide, blah, 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 blah. USCIS will increase capacity, improve technology, and expand staffing to achieve our goals by the end of fiscal year 2023. It sounds pretty good. That's what they said in March 2022, and fiscal year 2023 ends in September. And I like hearing that from them. But on this one, I am sort of a, gray cloud sort of guy, because I went and pulled some numbers on, historical numbers and current numbers on how long it takes to process something that's very important to everybody here, green cards. And way back in April of 2019, I was paranoid about April of 2022. I was paranoid about USCIS processing times for green cards, and I basically saved a screenshot of what they were saying for the service centers. And they were saying for an employment-based green card in April 2019, Texas Service Center, 22.5 to 45 months, and Nebraska Service Center, 12 to 19.5 months. And that's an awful number right there, and I happened to go in and pull the numbers today. They're all up. As of today, January 2nd, 2023, in I-45, they say the Texas Service Center gets to 80% of cases in 50.5 months. So
whopping 50 months.
So that's up 5 months.
Yeah.
And Nebraska Service Center gets to 80% of cases in 22 months. That's up, 3 months.
Yeah.
So they still have some time left in fiscal year 2023. They have done their hiring, and I think they said they were going to make all of their hiring by the end of 2022. So welcome to you, all you new USCIS employees out there. But them getting up to capacity to fully...
to fulfill that goal. So this USCIS is led by an extremely competent lady. And they have approved cases and did not waste green cards last year.
You are entirely right on that front.
You can criticize them all day long about approving cases in advance, and they weren't perfect. It was ugly, but they got it done. They got it done.
Any version where they get all the green cards issued is better than the version where they don't.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So with them coming out and saying that, with the group that they have right now, notwithstanding your very logical pessimism, I feel that there will be a positive movement next year, just looking at the players at USCIS.
Well,
now, having said that, I don't think it will happen unless they change how they review cases.
Well, I have saved my screenshots from today. I'm saving them. They're in a special folder on my desktop, just where I keep little projects like this. And I think I'll want to revisit this one.
Well, I hope I'm right. I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong on this one too.
Yeah, but we don't know.
I had a conversation with a guy. He was very excited to get his EB1 I-140 approval, in the month of December. And I had to have the conversation with him. Hey, Brian, how long is it going to take me to get my green card? Well, they just released a visa bulletin and the dates retrogressed for a year, but don't worry, the processing time for your case is, anywhere from 22 to 50 months. It's not a fun conversation.
It's ridiculous.
It's bad enough to have a backlog, but when your party date finally becomes current, then you have to wait years beyond that.
Yes.
It's a little bit frustrating for people.
Well, shall we talk about immigration reform or something else?
Immigration reform is something. It's intensely tied to economic factors for sure, as you sort of went through at the beginning of this presentation. So,
there was a post in one of my papers that I read, which is the Post, Washington Post, and the op-ed said that the data coming from the industry and the action of this administration are not consistent. This administration is continue to push interest rate up, where the data is telling you that inflation has been tamed and it has gone down. Inflation is lower now.
Yeah, it's
and
down
therefore,
to 7%, something like that, versus 9 where it was. Yeah.
Therefore, the administration need to ease off on increasing interest rate, but the administration raised 0.5 point, and they said they may raise it lesser than 0.5 point next time, but they're not promising that they will not raise it. And then, of course, immediately after that was announced, the market tanked, as it's been tanking anyways consistently. The market, I think, went down 20% last year. It's the worst market since 2008, since 2008, 2022 for the market. And so with that in mind, the administration continued to push in that direction. Immigration is going to be a big concern in terms of Congress that is divided now between the administration and Congress. So, you have Congress that's split, and you have a Democratic administration. So I don't see opportunities like I saw last year.
Well, so, thinking about this today, thinking about this presentation, I sniff around, see where the buzz is on immigration reform. And I'm hearing the same old story again and again. Actually, I heard that President Biden apparently wants to go for round 2 in immigration on 2023, and that Kyrsten Sinema is not done with her, proposed package, that was kind of floating around at the end of the third week of December. And the bottom line is all these things still boil down to the same 2 issues. It's, Republicans want more immigration security. Democrats are very concerned about the Dreamers. And for me, employment-based stuff just sort of floats away into the background, where nobody's really talking about it. And until you clear that, that people at the border Dreamers impasse, you're not going to accomplish anything else. And I was reading a cute article that says, Biden sometimes pulls, legislative compromises out of his hat. And he was kind of on fire in terms of getting stuff done at the end of 2022. really the back half of 2022. But again, I don't think I am just so incredibly skeptical of the ability of them to achieve any sort of immigration, major immigration reform.
In 2023.
Yeah.
So it's good to be pessimistic because being optimistic will break your heart always.
Yeah.
So I hope we're wrong on that. I will have to agree with you that I just don't see it happening. The problem is nobody seems to care that there's about 750,000 foreign nationals caught in the middle of this. Employers are not significantly impacted because these people are working.
Yeah.
And therefore, there is no. You talk to the leaders in the IT tech industry, and they are all for reform, but they're not worried about it because
people are still working. People are still working.
And they're still working. They got 30,000 engineers offshore in China, whether it's Apple or whatever, and so there's no panic.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Canada and Australia and Germany and England are becoming the go-to places where there's more security and there's more proactive policies.
For me, I spend a lot of time talking to people about, green card processing, and really it's, they care, it's about, hey, my stability in my life, it's about my kids, it's my family and my ability, my confidence to buy a home and start, really actually start a life in the United States. And they basically, that's kind of kept on hold until a green card comes in, and it's just frustrating.
If the Eagle Act or whatever replaces it and called it whatever name.
For the record, Congress ends its, new session begins. Eagle Act didn't make it through. They're going to have to update the Eagle Act website for their, here's our zillionth iteration of the Eagle Act that didn't pass. That website's kind of a silly thing at this point.
If we can get something like that where people can file their adjustment at least. That can really help them in creating a little bit more maneuverability, stability, self-employment.
Yeah, it's still lousy though for people. It's just, there's citizens, there's permanent residents, and then there's strange limbo for you for an indefinite amount of time. I don't like it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's so is your outlook positive, negative, or mixed?
Coming into this, I was a little bit darker than I am here live, and we had a nice conversation about this beforehand. And there's a lot to look forward to in immigration in 2023. Bottom line is, green card anxiety is still going to be out there. The visa bulletin is rolled back. It's moving forward slowly, but on the other hand, people, I don't think, at least right now, they don't have to worry about, is my H-1B going to be denied for arbitrary, stupid reasons like we experienced, for a good 2 years, a couple of years back.
But that's not the case anymore.
It's not the case, yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And also, keep an eye on the economy, folks. The economy really is going to drive the outlook for 2023, in my opinion. It is the engine that's going to drive the immigration in a positive or a negative overall direction. With that, that's our outlook for 2023. I hope that was helpful. We got a few questions for you guys here. When we come back, we're going to take all of them and answer all of them one at a time. All right, so this is the time when we get to answer your questions with a couple of reminders. We cannot answer your question to a level in which you are able to make decisions for yourself because we are not your attorney. Well, some of you guys are our client, but not everybody.
We don't know really.
We don't know really. So we're answering a general answer to a general question to kind of give you some kind of a guideline. But always consult with an attorney before you take a decision about your immigration case. And obviously, because we're live here on with you today, there is not an attorney-client relationship established as a result of that. And without delay, we take the first question from Rancho.
PK Rancho.
PK Rancho Rancho.
That's how I'm gonna pronounce it. So, a great question. What are the options to expedite a 221G administrative processing during visa stamping?
So the word expedite and 221G is if you're able to mix oil and water.
I am on the exact same brain wavelength as you,
then
Sam.
you can expedite a 221G.
Yeah. So I'll tell my take on 221Gs. The consulate has very broad discretion, and a 221G, for those who aren't familiar, is their sort of generic, citation for, hey, we need some time to look at this. The reason behind a 221G could be because they say, hey, we want some documents from your employer. We just want to do a background check. They may tell you, they may not, and they have essentially infinite amount of time to address that request. That's it, really.
And when they contact USCIS and they say, we want to confirm information, then they go out and USCIS, and I'm sorry to say this, they send out the least intelligent people in the field. They don't even read the case, and they ask questions to collect information that is they don't even have the intelligence to really help out. And when you have that bad link, I get site visitation or 221G, and they're going to the end client asking questions, and you go back to the petition. There's nothing there that talks about that this person will be working for this company, but they haven't read anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to cease being a gray cloud, though. This person's asking, okay, so the short answer is you cannot expedite a 221G request. 221G means the G stands for government's going to take as long as it's going to take on this. However, it can sometimes be possible to get around a denied or delayed visa application. I'm going to travel back in time a long time ago, Sam, probably maybe 2012, 2013, where we were seeing tons of, delays in 221Gs from the consulates when, they thought H-1B amendments should have been filed and USCIS policy didn't require it.
Good thinking, yeah.
And they were, basically saying, we're holding on to your application. And that's a scenario back so many years ago when we were filing, the solution was to file a new H-1B amendment to give the Department of State, get a fresh approval from USCIS and do a fresh visa application to the Department of State. And they suddenly wouldn't care about their 221G anymore. They were perfectly happy to issue, visas pursuant to a new H-1B approval.
So one option you have, in your opinion, that if you believe that your H-1B petition has an opportunity to clarify, correct, or if there's changes that happened in the H-1B petition, filing an H-1B amendment and getting a new one, and clarifying all these things and submitting a new visa application might be an opportunity to fix it.
It's something that's crossing my mind. The devil's in the details. I don't know,
of course, we're talking in general here.
Yeah, but the other side of the coin is, the old joke is, what's the best way to get a visa denial? To already have a visa denial, but but it's not necessarily. So bottom line, no way to expedite a 221G request, but basically maybe reconsider how you're looking at it.
A new petition might be the case.
It's a possibility. I mean, yeah. I'm telling you, there's no solution for a 221G. I'm trying to consider broader options for sure.
Got it. Abhishek 03. My priority is April 2015, India. Any chances with the spillover this year? Well. Right now, I'm assuming this is EB2. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's an assumption on my part.
And
I'm trying to grab the visa bulletin here and look at it. And right now, India's 2011 final action date, 2015, and 2012, August 2012 filing dates for filing. So I see 2015 be a big leap under the circumstances.
Well, as I recall, I agree. As I recall, they said they had about 40,000 cases, adjustment cases, status cases in their backlog. Last year, where there was massive visa availability, they had about 60,000 visas that went to the India EB2 category alone. I'm still, holding on to my narrow sliver of hope that that we see some visa bulletin movement forward. especially India EB2 this year as the year progresses onward. But to get beyond the furthest they made it, which was on dates for filing January 1st, 2015, that's going to be a tough one for me to swallow, I think. Yeah.
I agree with you. So Sai is saying, Happy New Year, everyone. Sam Bryan, my priority date is India, April 2012 in EB2. Straight filing in 11/2022. Is it worth to downgrade to EB3 or stay in EB2 given the filing date is current for me in EB2?
Yeah, it's a pretty good question. Well,
there's a lot going on here. Number one, obviously, where is EB3 stands, and why would you abandon EB3 because you think EB2 is going to move? I mean, EB3 is ahead, and his filing date is current, so it's a tough one.
Well, so my first thing is, your date is current in EB3, and the bottom line is it doesn't hurt you to have an I-140 filed. Mm-hmm. Right? They can't approve a green card for you in the EB3 category until an I-140 is filed. Mm-hmm. I-140 is approved. But if the dollars and cents aren't really the concern, it is not a crazy idea to file an I-140 in the EB3 category to have it in your pocket. The worst case scenario is you never have to take advantage of it. And the best case scenario is, EB2 continues to stagnate and you are able to then instead get a green card in the EB3 category despite the EB2 stagnation.
With 40 months processing time with the adjustment of status, so you would do a transfer on the line basis.
I mean, right now you can file an EB3 I-140, right? You can't file it with premium processing. Oh, you can try it. They might take it right now. Their policy might be shifting on that one, but yeah.
So you would favor a transfer on the line basis?
You might hedge a bit if you're concerned about because you can.
No, I'm trying to agree with you. I feel now again we cannot really advise you to do this. Just be very clear. You really need to have a lot of things reviewed in your case. I need to there's a lot going on here, but I would be interested in looking at your case, leaning towards a recommendation for a transfer on the line basis.
So,
to EB.
I mean, the broadest advice that applies to everybody. It never hurts you to be,
Would you file a second adjustment, or would you do?
See, this is why the devil's in the details, Sam. As soon as I think about filing another category, I think about what if you have kids, older kids, Child Status Protection Act. Yeah. So,
yes, it is worth considering 100%. To look at it and have somebody evaluate your case and give you a recommendation. I would be, at least I can go that far without knowing more.
Yeah, I mean, the dates for filing on the EB2, the dates for filing as per what Charles Oppenheim, the last Department of State, visa bulletin guru. Yeah, he said, that I think that the dates of filing are supposed to represent an 8 to 10 month outlook on the final action dates. So, if somebody's looking for information upon, better data than I can ever give on where the visa bulletin is going, look at the dates for filing. That's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to say, hey, if you filed a case now, we think we'd be able to issue you, a visa, but we think your date's going to be current by the time it takes us to process that case.
Yep.
So,
Quattro saying, Happy New Year for everybody. And he has a question. Please make show more. It's helpful. Absolutely. Thank you. We will do more of those.
We took a week off for the last week.
Okay. So Quattro wants to know about the visa bulletin, especially EB3 unskilled. Yeah, we can talk a moment about the EB3 unskilled. So the EB3 category has a category called other workers, which is unskilled worker, and there is a set aside of 10,000 green card every year for EB3 other workers.
Yeah,
and it is not crazy. It is on the rest of the world is a little bit backlogged to right now. I'm looking at it 2020.
June 1st, 2020 are final action dates for the rest of the world, and that's not too shabby.
And who are the other workers?
Well, yeah, this goes back into an explanation of the employment-based categories.
Yes.
So other workers is basically any position that requires less than 2 years of experience.
Yes.
EB3 has skilled workers and professionals. Those are jobs requiring a bachelor's degree and jobs requiring at least 2 years of experience. EB2 is, positions requiring an advanced degree like a master's or a bachelor's degree and 5 years of experience. And also folks of exceptional ability. And we have actually a pretty recent YouTube video on the subject if you want to learn about exceptional ability. There's no simple way for me to explain exceptional ability, I guess is the point.
Right.
And there's EB1 above that.
So other workers are available. They're definitely wonderful opportunity for a lot of people who are not very professional, very educated, to apply and have an advantage. And for China, for example, it's same backlog as the entire third preference, identical backlog. For the rest of the world, other than Mexico and Philippines, it's 2020, which is not too bad.
No, I'm sorry. China has December 2013. It's got about 5 years on the EB.
China is backlogged significantly, and India and Mexico is 2020. Believe it or not, Philippines 2020, which is huge.
Yeah.
So who takes advantage of these other workers? If you own a landscaping company, if you own a construction company, and you are short on workers, I would fly to Mexico. I would hire a top-notch agencies, and I would recruit 50 amazing iron workers, amazing machine operators, amazing professionals, and I'll apply for green cards for them. And 2, 3, 4 years later, I get 50 people working for me. And obviously, you got to enter into a good employment contract so they can work for you. So that's the unskilled worker.
Yeah. It's a big backlog for India and China, but for folks from other countries, it's it's something I was just talking to somebody about last week. I have a guy from Mexico I want to bring. You might have to wait a couple years to get him here, but yeah.
Anurag Gupta, I have a question for you.
For me, all right.
I've decided it's for you.
All right. So this is a follow-up. Well, it seems to be a second half of a question. Or wait, if recommended in filing family, should I only file I-130 and once approved, shall I try to change underlying basis or file both I-130 and I-45 together?
So I have not seen any. I think he probably
posted before we started here. Yeah. So basically, I'm going to guess that this is a question about
So Anurag, send us the first part of the question, and we have time today. We promise to get back to you. If you can just type it in right now, I'll dive to the bottom of the pack since you got there, and then grab you after I answer the next question.
Yeah.
So we can take care of you. So let's go in and talk to Mr. Khan.
Yes.
Irshad Khan. Happy New Year, guys. I get the feeling that USCIS will waste 15 to 25,000 visas. I don't agree with my dear friend Irshad Khan.
Yeah, they got through a lot more last year than they're going to get through this year. And then again, sometimes people get very pleased with themselves. They pat themselves on the back, and I don't think it's impossible. But I got to go by what I've seen in the last year. They managed to get through 280,000 in fiscal year 2022. And they have to get through 80,000 less in this fiscal year. Yeah. I sincerely hope that they don't. Is the bottom line. I don't want to see them wasting them for sure.
All right. So let's go ahead and take Divya Silva Kumar's question, Brian.
Sure. My priority date is EB2 January 2015. I'm in confusion whether I can change job now or hold. Please advise me. I waited last 2 years, not sure about the future. So EB2 January 2015 this is somebody
assuming there was an adjustment filed.
No, impossible. EB2 January 2015.
Never.
The furthest it got was January 1st, and you have to be before it. So no green card filed. And the question is basically.
Well, maybe he was January 1st.
No, as I recall, it has to be before January. Before it. So.
I see. You said
Yeah.
the furthest one January 1st, so it could not have been, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but okay. So he hasn't filed. So let's answer it both ways. But I
Sure.
think with adjustment filed, I think that we will not go there.
Yeah.
Without an adjustment filed, is it really worth it for him to change jobs? I'm gonna give my answer, and then you can give your answer because we may have different way of looking at it.
That's fine. Yeah.
If there's no adjustment filed, the answer is what's in his best for his career, and how fast can they file a new labor certification. It's taking a long time to file a new labor certification, and whether this is a friendly employer who's willing to keep this case alive, can he go back if things don't work out?
Yeah.
I mean, those considerations. So those type of consideration requires a little bit somebody to kind of give you a consultation to help you out a little bit with the
Yeah, to sort
details.
of talk to you how because I mean I think
Pros and cons.
I think this Divya's paranoia has to be, okay, I leave my employer on in January 15th, and then suddenly on February 1st my priority date is current. I've burned that bridge, and fundamentally you have to. I mean, knowing what your relationship with your current employer, if you move on, are they willing to take me back and file my green card? Because honestly, right now, if the green card, there's certain ways you can speed up the perm process, as always. But the bottom line is to just the Department of Labor processing times for a perm right now is, about 8 months. So plus, it could take a while. So. But I fundamentally agree. Don't let immigration run your life either. There's there's probably out there a financial incentive that makes you leave that job, and it doesn't hurt to look and talk to somebody like a.
But it does,
immigration
yeah, it does
counsel.
help to kind of lay out the timeline
Yeah.
to help you out.
So I think if Divya would have talked to somebody, an immigration attorney, they would be able to tell, here's realistically what it's going to take to get you back to the same spot you are in the green card process with a new employer, and basically what are the odds of your priority date becoming current, and what happens if your priority date does become current before you expect it to.
I agree with the analysis. Rami Love, Happy New Year, Sam. Any chances of August 2nd, 2012 EB3 India to be current in the next 2 visa bulletins? So in terms of current, I'm assuming it's the filing dates, because right now it is August of 2012, and it's August 1st, 2012 for EB3, and he's asking about August 2nd, 2012. He's asking for 1 day movement. He's extremely modest in his request because he's probably very close.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that this is a case that somebody has out there pending with USCIS right now.
Yeah, but for final action date, it is June now, and it needs to move 2 months to get to the August date, because obviously if his adjustment is filed already, he doesn't care about the filing date. He cares about the final action date.
Yeah.
So the question from Rami Love is whether or not you are going to have a 2 months movement in the visa bulletin in the next within the next 2 releases. That's really the question.
Well, Sam, Rami asked this question. It's Happy New Year, Sam. Any question? What's your take?
Yes.
I think.
Why would I not make up his day? I have no knowledge of whether they will or not. Honestly, the next significant movement really is in the following quarter.
Yeah.
So I honestly don't think in the next 2 months, but the following month I would watch it carefully with my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I mean, my answer to that would be, well, you're not going to blow my, great if it does. I don't think it. So any chance? Yeah, I give it a chance. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be have my brain blown wide open if that happened. I'd say, hey, awesome, man, good for you.
Yes. All right. So let's take Deepak Muralidharan. And I apologize for...
Deepak Muralidharan.
You do a better job than me.
Well, just forced my way through.
Yeah, good job.
So EB1 India regressed to final action date of February 1st, 2022 in the January visa bulletin. What are the chances for EB1 retrogressing even further in the upcoming months? So,
we have to watch the releases. I'm assuming I mean, I was shocked at the first retrogression to begin with. So right now, India is June 1st, 2022, filing date, and February 2022, final action date for EB1.
Yeah. I mean, what they say if you're not aware, on the visa bulletin, sometimes they put little commentaries right towards the end of it. And not a bullet point, but letter D is where they talk about the EB1 retrogression for India and China. And the executive summary, they say, this situation will be continually monitored and any necessary adjustments will be made accordingly. So the bottom line is the Department of State is really who controls the visa bulletin. They are the best people to know. They certainly know better than me. And they're saying they don't know. And, they're not saying, we'll be, it's.
My guess, no movement until the next quarter.
I think that's a reasonable.
April will probably figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Please let me know if an I-140 approved H-1B employee going back home country for 2 or 3 years are cap exempt for the new H-1B, and that's for Jolly Mail 121, and that's an excellent question.
Yeah,
Take that one, Brian.
It's a great, classic one.
Yeah.
Yes. Basically, the general rule is that you're allowed H-1B status for 6 years, right? And once you have an I-140 approved, that time frame is limited. And once you've been counted under the cap once, an I-140 approval allows you to keep on extending your H-1B status.
Excellent answer. Quattro says, thank you, Sam and Brian. Appreciate what you're doing. Can you please come to live more often? Your dad is helpful and gives hopeful thanks. God bless. Happy New Year. Thank you, Quattro. And I know you asked a question about predicting the visa bulletin.
You're talking about the unskilled
worker. There's 10,000 green cards per year, so the movement is not great. But honestly, I don't have a outlook on that to share. I don't want to give somebody an answer by guessing.
So
I don't know. Do you?
No, definitely. I can't give any further outlook. But the bottom line is, we're here pretty much every Monday. Check our history. We took the last week off for the holidays to let everybody else get a break from us, and we're back in full force. And you're going to see us next week and the week after. And sometimes we're going to be in different locations if we're traveling. But generally speaking, unless there's a holiday falling on a Monday, we're going to be here.
Absolutely. Sam Fax. Happy New Year, Sam and Brian. Been on H-1B for more than a decade. Got an EAD, really want to take a break for a year. Hoping to get my green card soon. Well, I tell you.
We were talking about, somebody talking to somebody to really sort of lay out what might happen. I think that's the sort of thing which, I'd kind of recommend to Sam Fax.
So, Sam Fax, let me tell you. If you need to take a break, you got to take a break. You got EAD, you can go home. Hopefully you have an advanced parole, of course, before you leave. You got to take a break. But I can tell you one thing. You are not alone in this country. There are no breaks. I was sharing with you this year that I've been practicing law for 28 years. I have not taken more than 1 week off at a given time for this entire duration, except when I got married, at which time I've taken 10 days off. And until this year, I've taken a little bit of time off, like maybe 3 weeks or so. So don't feel too bad for yourself for working so hard. I don't have to tell you, you know better than me. This country is about hard work, and those that work harder get ahead furthest. But if you feel that you can and should take a 1 year break for your family and your health and your mental health, do it, man. By all means, I support it.
I'm programmed to be super conservative, and if somebody calls me and they say, Brian, I have a pending green card, but I don't have a job right now, that's going to make me a little bit squirrely. But the bottom line is, as long as you have an employer
he didn't say he doesn't have a job.
Well, taking a break, that means no job.
No, the green card is a future employment.
Well, that's what I'm about to get to. The bottom line is, if you have an employer who's cool to say, hey, you want to take a couple months sabbatical, have at it.
Or 1 year. I have a job for you when you come back.
Yeah, That's what matters. As long as there's somebody out there who can give you a bona fide, legitimate offer of permanent employment in the United States, willing to sign off on a Supplement J when USCIS comes knocking, don't let immigration run your life. You're a human being.
Happy New Year from Brian. I cannot read it.
Oh, I'm going to take a crash. That's Felesh Razov. I have a YouTube account as well, and I assure you that my YouTube name is hard to read as
I don't have any question. Hi Brian, Happy New Year. I don't have any questions. Just wanted to say thank you for these nice sessions. Well, you're more than welcome, and we love to do those because it really also inspire us to talk about things.
Yeah.
Truly, it does help us to talk more about these things because what we do is tough day in and day out. To take a break and do this.
It's good to get our heads out of the books and the forms and into something that's more theoretical.
Yeah, more human, really.
Yeah. That's a great point. Yeah.
Vijay Singh, any chance of April 2013 getting current in EB2 category by end of 2023, Brian?
In any EB category by the end of fiscal year 2023. See, you shouldn't give me outs like that. Any EB category. I think you're really good in EB1 if you can get there, VJ. But I'm kidding.
I'm assuming.
He's looking at EB2 or EB3.
I'm assuming born in India.
Yeah.
Right now, obviously, it's not looking good across the board. But yeah. That's a good question. I don't know.
April 2013. That's a year of movement, and the problem we have is that unused visas from EB1, which we already know the backlog in EB1. Those roll into EB2.
They're no longer.
Yeah, exactly. There's no more to roll down.
Yeah.
I'm not really optimistic so Sam, we're never optimistic for movement in EB3.
Not this year.
But
EB3, yeah.
EB3 is always surprising us.
Yes.
Everybody jumps into EB2 because it's in theory the faster category, the more exclusive category, but EB3 has been constantly surprising us in its movement. Yes. So there's your silver lining.
Anurag Gupta, Brian.
Sure. Priority date, February 2013, EB2, and got green card last year, but wife didn't get. Anurag is the one who asked that question. Yeah.
Would you suggest filing I-130 or wait? Shall I file I-130, I-45 together, or change underlying basis for I-130? Okay. So this is a complicated question.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on here because your wife is no longer in status.
Yeah. I'll elaborate that on. So basically, Sam points out, you're on H-1B status, you're maintaining your H-1B status to the very last minute, and they hand you a green card. Congratulations, you're no longer on H-1B status, you have a green card in your hand. And if your spouse was maintaining, H-4 status, well, she no longer has H-4 status because you got a green card. Her H-4 derives from your H-1B, meaning she's just has the pending green card. She's in an authorized period of stay by the Attorney General. And there you go.
So you have to file an I-130 and do a transfer underlying basis of her case to the family immigration case, which is doable, but you have to abandon the EB2. And with this thing current,
well, it's not current yet. 2013 EB2.
Family is current.
Yes, yeah. Spouses of permanent residence is current, but that's been current for a couple years, Sam. I am always paranoid about that one. Whenever
it remains current. It remains current.
Yeah.
Today. Yes, all what I can say.
Yeah.
And so, but you have to do a transfer underlying basis. The reason I personally like that option, of course, you got to consult with an attorney before you make a decision because it's really critical, because it gets you into a category that's very current, and honestly, there is a chance to do a transfer underlying basis back under the circumstances, especially given the fact that they dropped the ball and did not hand your wife a green card.
Yeah.
So you need to consult with an attorney on this, but I would be in favor of transfer underlying basis to the F2A category. And that's my answer, but definitely consult.
I mean, that's where find a qualified immigration counsel of your choice, and that's where your conversation's going to go. Yes. How do you get your wife into the?
Because we've handled those similar cases.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
So Rajesh, what do you think USCIS will start premium processing for EB2 national interest waiver application? Thank you. So they have, but they have started for cases filed about 2 years
this is
back.
on the list of things that I was going to talk about the first half of the presentation, but yes, they have. If you go to the if you just do a Google search for USCIS premium processing, I believe there's a page called either "How do I use the premium processing service?" and basically all it has is a big giant chart of all the types of cases they will process premium processing for, and on the bottom is their explanation of how they're processing premium processing for national interest waiver cases. So it is out there.
Yep. So good question here from our friend Prakash Ann that. He heard that the Department of State is going to remove the date for filing, get rid of it. Well, the date for filing is not mandated by regulations, and removing it is absolutely possible without a problem. And I think they're looking at simplifying their visa bulletin because it gets very complicated right now. And I won't be surprised if they do that. But
I'd be fine with that. I have not. If you have a source, Prakash, on that, obviously, put it in the comments. We'd be happy to read it and give a take on it. Yeah. But the bottom line is, you're not, breaking an important institution if you get rid of the dates of filing. They've only been around since 2015, I think it is.
And they're so backlogged that the State Department right now probably is worthless, and USCIS is half the time don't follow it. Yeah. So I won't be surprised. Yeah. How long it takes to get approval for advanced parole extension? How advanced can I file?
So processing times on those, I'm going to do a public service announcement on that. Is I don't have these things memorized, and anytime anybody asks me if I'm on the phone with somebody, they ask how long is something going to take. Head to the USCIS website. If you just go to USCIS, it's on the right side of the page. There's 3 things. Search for processing times. You can put in information about your type of case, where it's going to be filed, and it'll give you an idea as to how long it's going to take. Longer than the EADs is the trend right now for advanced parole.
How much in advance can you do it? 6 months or 4 months?
I believe 6 months. Months in advance.
We always look those things up because I honestly don't do it. I personally don't prepare them. I review them and approve them. Yeah. And I don't. And if I look it up in about 3-4 more days, I'm going to forget. Yeah. I have to look it up.
Yeah,
again.
The attorney instinct is to make sure they haven't changed the web page in the last 20 minutes for the filing directions between when you first reviewed the case and when we're about to sign it and send it out the door, because they change these things a lot.
It's 7:02, but I got a couple more questions here to answer, and then we'll wrap it up. Doctor, first, if the rest of the world has cutoff date, it can be understood that big countries like Canada, Mexico, Germany may have used up the visas, but how can small countries like Latvia, etc., use the date? So
I want to know the answer to this question because I agree with Dr. First. This is beyond my number crunching capability.
They don't. If you look at countries like Latvia and all this country, nobody files.
Yeah, exactly. There's nobody immigrating to the United States from, I don't know, the Vatican. The Vatican's its own independent nation, right?
Yeah, which is, yeah.
Yeah. So how the heck does that work?
Well, if they hit 7%, they will be on the chart. They will be listed on the chart. I mean, listen, the visa bulletin, it's like fixing sausage. You don't know how sausage is made, so there's no logic behind a lot of the stuff. I mean, but if they hit a 7%, 2-3 months, they may not even list it.
Yeah, I guess the insight, my little mental epiphany, they're about preventing it from going to the 7%. Basically, one of the things by setting the EB2 for the rest of the world to final action date for 1st of November 2022, for example, they meter the rest of the world's cases. They're ensuring that they don't run out of them immediately.
We have to go back to the chart, and the theory is that only these countries listed have gone beyond their 7%, and the rest of the world are all combined because none have reached their 7%, but collectively have reached the 28.1% allocation.
I think that makes sense to me, even though
that's basically the math behind it. Yeah. And once you reach the collective total number, now if a single country hit that 7%, it must be listed separately with its own date.
Yeah. I mean, logically, I kind of agree with Dr. First here. You'd think,
but a lot of people have difficulty buying into
Yeah.
it. Now, I understand not buying into it. I'm just explaining why it's not.
And
showing up.
all this being behind the curtains at the metaphorical sausage factory, we don't really get to know the exact answer. But for me, logically, when I see that backlog, I think like they should be adding more columns to this thing immediately. Yeah.
Well, guys, it's 7:05. Happy New Year to everybody. I hope 2023 will prove us, because we're a little bit nervous about 2023. I hope we're wrong. I hope 2023 will be wonderful for all of you and your families and your health. And we, on our end, for our clients and our friends, we will do our best to fight for you as we always do. Thank you. Have a fantastic rest of today.